because
Crap, really?
hey, if you can mute your phone, I think Anne might need to mute.
Can you mute me? Because I'm driving. Christine can mute me.
Christine, can you mute her? There we go. No? There we go. Perfect. Thank you, Christine. Okay, here we go. So it is an honor to spend some time with you guys tonight. I will tell you, advancing your business to 5-star and beyond is worth it just by the relationships that you will make in other organizations. Because, I mean, truly, when I started in this business, I was a little bit nervous that there would be kind of like this, I don't know, I had this preconception that like a bunch of girl boss women would try to cut each other down or, you know, try to one up, or I don't know. I just have this kind of like false competition in my head, and it hasn't been like that at all, like at all. In fact, it's been quite the opposite, where everyone has been so generous with ideas and, you know, documents or training or whatever. And so just know that there are some really great friendships in store for you. I want to tell you just a little bit about my story so that you can know where I'm coming from and why turning fear into fuel is kind of a hot topic for me personally. It's fast becoming something that I get really fired up to talk about with anyone who will listen, because I really truly feel like this is something that you can absolutely overcome. So back up about, real quick, about 4 years ago, our family went through back medical drama whammies, okay? It started with my youngest, Tyler, who was diagnosed with a papilledema. That's a swollen optic nerve. People don't like to see swollen optic nerves. They like to rule those out because they tend to be an indicator of a brain tumor. So thankfully, everything turned out to be fine with him. We went through a whole year of like pseudotumor and spinal taps. They thought he had excessive spinal fluid, and so they would drain that off of him. It wouldn't resolve anything. Finally, they're like, well, maybe this is how God made him, you know? And so he's still under like a watch and see kind of thing. But it was scary. That whole year we were navigating this, you know, unknown thing with our precious cargo. And so it kind of rocked our world a little bit. And a year later, my husband, who has been in mixed martial arts for years, was testing for his black belt in American karate. And during his black belt test, he had an atrial flutter episode that rendered him unconscious. It nearly took his life. Blood wasn't pumping in his heart or out of his heart. His body just shut down. He was in ICU for 3 days. We had a care flight situation. And my friends were all talking about, like, what the heck are we going to do with Joy when Andrew dies? So, like, it was a crazy, crazy, crazy pivotal moment in our life. And it made us appreciate every breath and every day so much more. And you can't make this up, a year later, so back to back, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, DCIS, early stage. We decided to be super aggressive. So I had a bilateral mastectomy and reconstruction surgery. And on the heels of that, my oldest son started his journey with depression and anxiety. So I was that know-it-all person that said no to Beachbody for 7 years. 7 years. I threw away samples. I was on Stephanie's dream team list when she first started this thing. It was called $1 Million Body at the time. She had some crazy sticker logo on her car, and I was rolling my eyes the entire time. I thought it was a complete scam. I didn't think it would be around. I bought P90X, didn't do anything with it, but I did buy it from her. And for 7 years, I watched Stephanie consistently show up in her business, and I was proud of her, but I was the biggest skeptic in the world. But you know what? Back to back, medical whammies will humble you. They will make you a little bit more open and receptive. And I remember on the back end of my surgery, I probably was self-medicating with Mama's Good Cooking, because she had come taking care of me for about a month and had done a whole lot of casserole cooking. And so nothing fit in my closet. And I remember standing there and, at the same time, I was at a point in my life where, I was only 41 when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. No family history, by the way. So go get your mammograms, ladies. Be an advocate for yourself. But I also found myself in a job for an organization that I loved, but was completely tapped out as far as where I was. There's no room for growth, no opportunity. I kind of just felt like, oh my gosh, is this 40? Is God done with me? I feel like I've never even left the starting gates, right? As far as my potential is concerned. And now I've had cancer. I don't foresee a future in my job. It just felt miserable. And it was about that time that Stephanie posted a transformation photo. She was in the test group with Pio. And my friend, who I'd watched for 7 years, had abs. And I was I don't know what you're doing, but that Pio program looks like something that I could actually do, because the kickboxing and high intensity stuff that I had done prior to my surgeries, it didn't feel right. Muscles had been rearranged. And so Pio kind of became my soulmate workout. I shared about it naturally on Facebook. I joined as a customer. And I had 3 ladies from my church who had faithfully walked with me through the cancer journey. And they said, we want to go on the strength building part of your story with you. We want to join Pio with you. So I was like, hey, Stephanie, I got 3 people. And she was like, well, do you want the referral money back, or do you want me to keep it? And I had no idea how successful Stephanie had been at this point. So I kind of felt like, well, gosh, you should have it. You probably need the money. Little did I know. But we were in so much medical debt from Andrew and myself and Tyler that $140 back was the biggest blessing to us in the world. So she said, oh, sign up as a preferred customer and you can get the money, the referral money. And I go to sign up and it says coach. And I text her and I'm like, what the heck? I don't want to be a coach. You said preferred customer. And she's like, oh, it's the same thing. You can cancel in 30 days. Don't worry about it. You don't do anything with it. So bottom line is, y'all, she tricked me. After 7 years, she totally tricked me into signing up as a coach. But I truly, truly believe that this business opportunity found me at just the right time in my life, because I was at a point when I could see how God wanted to use it as a bigger part of my story to help women reduce their cancer risk, to help couples strengthen their marriage, and to make something good out of something horrible that had been happening in our family. So I just want to encourage you that those no for nows that you hear every single day, you have no idea what is going to happen 5-7 years from now. And I know that's a long time to wait for someone to say yes, but I promise you they're watching. Okay, here's the deal. I really wish that we were having a coffee chat with one another, because I really do feel like everything that you want is on the other side of fear. And if we were having a coffee one-on-one talks together, I could hear your story and I would be able to specifically encourage you in whatever is holding you back. But what I want to know is that you are actually going to do something with what we are going to talk about tonight. So we are not here to be a collector of information or collector of knowledge. We are here to develop wisdom. And wisdom is taking knowledge and putting it into action. So it doesn't matter if I tell you how to turn fear into fuel, if you're just going to store it up like a chipmunk and, not use the information to actually help you move forward in this business. What you don't realize is that there is nothing I would rather be able to do. I don't know who's drawing on the screen, but that's awesome. There's nothing I would rather be able to do than to cheer for you at Summit as you walk across the stage and be recognized for the hard work that you did in your business. So I want you to understand that through my story, I understand real fear and I understand perceived fear. Okay. the problem is that we don't necessarily like our bodies can't differentiate the difference between perceived and real fear. And we're going to talk about that. But tonight we're going to break through it all and we're going to turn fear into fuel. And I want you to promise me, I want you guys to use the chat during this call. Okay. I want there to be chatter. I can't see it, but y'all will see it with each other. So I want you to, in the chat, if you're not driving, I want you to say, I promise I will steward this well, and I will turn fear into fuel. Okay, so here's the deal. You can conquer fear. That's the good news. Fear gets far too much credibility and airplay. By the way, nothing I'm about to tell you is anything that I made up. It's all stuff that I've learned from other great leaders. So I'll show you all the credit and resources later. But I really feel like we use fear as an excuse far too much. We give it far too much power in our lives. It's like all fear is a broken record that plays over and over in our heads. And so because that broken record is playing on repeat, we tend to start to believe it. And like I said earlier, our bodies cannot tell the difference between real fear and a perceived threat. So your body has a part of the brain, it's called the amygdala. Seth Godin calls it the lizard brain. And basically the way that you respond viscerally is the same, whether it's a real threat or a perceived threat. Your amygdala it's something that every single wild animal has. Its sole goal is survival and reproduction. Right? Its sole function is to have zero threats in your world. It loves the assembly line. It loves the 9-to-5 job. Why? Because there's no perceived threat. Your amygdala, like really, the idea of the lizard brain is this. It's hungry, it's scared, it's selfish, and it's horny. Like that's the job of your amygdala, all right? It loves zero risks. It wants you to do nothing scary, or it wants you to do nothing that would get you in trouble. So if you have a 9-to-5 job, you perceive that there's no threat of losing a job. If you can't lose a job, you can't become homeless. And so doing something like coaching scares your amygdala because it's out of the box. It's not a guarantee. But we're going to talk about how to overcome it. Brendan Burchard says, oh, someone's unmuted. Thank you, Christine. Brendan Burchard says most fear is just bad management of mental faculties. But the good news is that we can flex and train our brain, and we can turn off the amygdala, and we can turn on other areas of our brain that will help us overcome. So in psychology, my background is cognitive psychology, so I totally get geeked out about this kind of stuff. I know it's kind of weird, but there's this psychological concept called the competence confidence loop. Try to say that 10 times fast. It's like ridiculous, but it kind of goes something like this. Like if you can know it, like if something is knowable, you can learn about it. If you can learn about it, you can do it. If you can do it, you can become increasingly confident in it. So like, let's say learning how to post something or do a video on YouTube. You can actually Google how to do a video on YouTube, and you can watch a video and you can learn how to do it. And you can kind of like struggle through your first one, posting it. But like the more you do it, the more confident you feel in it, which increases your competence level in actually doing that very same task. Same is true with our challenge groups. The first one that we do, we get all nervous, right? We don't feel competent, so we don't feel confident. But if we can push through that, then the mere act of doing a challenge group helps increase our confidence. Oh, that wasn't so hard. I had a whole guide that told me what to post every day. So that increases our confidence. So the more you do them, the more confident you feel. Guess what? The same is true with inviting. At first, like you don't feel confident with inviting anyone to your challenge groups or to coaching opportunity, but this competence loop applies. And it applies to anything that you have fear around. If it's knowable, it's learnable. If it's learnable, it's doable. The more you do, the more confident you feel. Here's something that's really interesting to me. Do you know that fear and curiosity have a really hard time coexisting? Think about that for a second. Fear and curiosity, they have a real hard time coexisting at the same time. They kind of cancel each other out if you think about it. But they're about 5 degrees apart in emotion. So you can kind of lean one way toward fear, or you can choose to lean 5 degrees the other way toward curiosity. And when you lean toward curiosity, it almost feels exciting, like a surprise, like a Christmas gift. Like, what am I going to unwrap? If you lean toward fear, it's like, what bomb is going to explode, right? But you have a choice. They viscerally feel the same, but you have a choice on which emotion you're going to lean into, okay? We're going to talk about several. Brendan Burchard, I feel like he was so spot on when he talked about the different types of fear that we face, and we're going to process through them together as they relate to coaching. And the first one is what he calls the fear of loss. And the fear of loss goes something like this. If I make change in my life, I will experience loss. So if I'm successful as a Beachbody coach, I'm going to lose that steady paycheck. I'm not going to have any job security. I'm going to lose all the colleagues and the people that I work with that I love. Like, I like hanging out with them around the water cooler. I'm going to lose my 401k. I'm going to lose my career path. I'm going to lose work that I love to do. I'm going to lose that little lunch spot down the street. I love to hang out there. Those people will rock, you know? And so we wind up talking ourselves out of stepping into all God has for our life because we focus on the loss instead of focusing on the ridiculous gain. I just did this a couple days ago. I think it was last week. I was talking to my mentor, Stephanie, and I was talking about how my husband is a road warrior. He travels like 80% of the time. And so he always has like first class upgrades for flights. And we love that perk. I mean, that's the only good part of his job right now. Well, I mean, you know, it provides for us. But like, that's the only good perk is that when we travel as a family, we can kind of use those first class upgrades. And I was telling her, oh yeah, you know, if we ever retire Andrew from his job, we're going to lose that perk. And she's like, you'll buy the first class upgrade. Like, you'll have the money to do that. Why would you want to have him travel 80% of the time just for a free pass to first class, right? So instead of focusing on the loss pain, we have to focus to turn it into fuel. We have to focus on the gain. And so if fear of loss is something that you struggle with, like, focus on the gain. So instead of focusing on the loss of the career path and work that you love, like, focus on the growth, because it's going to be exponential when you're working for yourself and you're doing a business on your own. Like, you just took the lid off your leadership. You don't have to ask permission to even like have an alarm clock in the morning, but you also have like unlimited creativity in how you approach your work, or how much you work, or how little you work. It's a beautiful thing. That lunch spot down the street, you'll be able to go whenever you want, not just when you have time. Like, you can actually go like any day and not be restricted to how long you spend there. Like, you're not going to be bound by like, you know, I got to get back at 1 o'clock or the boss is going to be really upset that I'm not back in time. Like, you have to focus on the game. Does that make sense to everyone? So if loss pain is something that you struggle with, make a list of all the things that you would gain in the process of doing what you need to do in your business. The second type of fear that a lot of us struggle with is fear of rejection. Anyone struggle with this? Y'all should be like, me, because we all do. And if you don't, then I need to talk to you personally because I need your secret. But we all kind of have like this fear that we're going to be rejected by people that we love, you know, just by being a coach. it makes, and this isn't just like rejection, like a no, like the real core fear. This is rejection of like the epic level that makes you question your identity, like who you are, what kind of person you are, what are your intentions? Like that's the kind of like deep level rejection we're talking about. So Vernon Burchard did this experiment to kind of prove a point. And he talks to groups of, thousands of people at a time. And so he asked this question in, his talks over and over again. And he would say, how many of you have had one person who was so hypercritical of you that it rocked your identity, like who you are? Stand up. Like a lot of people would stand up in the room of a crowd of thousands. Like we've all had the middle school bully, right? Like this is a real fear of ours because it actually happened like in middle school and high school, but not so much when we're adults. So everyone stands up. Like we've all kind of had one person who's just been that guy, right? So then he asked, well, how many of you have had 3 people that have criticized you so much that it rocked you to the core of who you are? And, fewer people would stand up, not as many. So he kept increasing the number, and it turns out that on average, people had about, 7 hypercritical people in their lifetime that made them feel so rocked to the core that they questioned their identity. But then he said, well, how many of you have been in a group of 10 and it went fine? Like you got along with everyone. They liked you. They loved you even. Like it went great. And everyone stood up in the room. How many of you have been in a group of 100 people? And all 100 people, like you got along, there was no issues, nobody criticized you or, nothing happened. It was like they loved you. Everyone stood up. How many of you have been in a room of thousands of people and you were not singled out as some like crazy person or criticized for what you do? Everyone stood up. And so it has to make us ask the question, who are these crazy people who are ridiculing us? They're the misfits, right? They're the ones who don't fit in. It's not us. And you have to reframe it. Like those people who question your identity and your intentions, they're the ones who have an issue that they need to work on. It's about them. Christine's like, amen. Friends are people who know all about you and they still love you. Like I said, it happened when we're young, but part of the maturity of life is to rationalize what happened on the schoolyard versus what we are facing today. So let's just take a look at these crazy people who are the critics. Like, who are they really? Well, they're basically 4 categories. And, I love having these categories because if I ever stumble across one of them, I'm like, I can totally put them into one of these categories. It's just awesome. But, you've got your braggers. So these are people like, no matter what you do, they're going to brag about what they're doing. It is all about them. And they cannot wait to gloat and tell you all about the fantastic stuff that they're doing to try and cut you down so you don't look so fantastic. These are self-protect. And then you have self-protectors. Your success challenges self-protectors. Your success kind of points something out in them. They see something in you that convicts them, and that makes them uncomfortable. So they might criticize you as a way to protect themselves from having to make a forward motion choice in their life. So you shouldn't listen to what they say because they are people like I was 7 years ago, right? Like I was the no way Jose girl. I was probably protecting myself from a past hurt or a past experience, and I didn't want anything to do with Beachbody. I was trying to protect myself, if I'm really honest, because I was a part of a network opportunity in my early 20s that didn't go very well for me. And so that shut me down. And so there are self-protectors. You shouldn't listen to what they say. And I'm glad Stephanie didn't listen to what I had to say because she's extremely successful and has blessed my life, not only with her friendship, but in so many other ways now that we are running together. The other category are people who are ignorant. These are people who have zero expertise in what you do. They don't know what you know. Their opinion matters absolutely nothing. They don't know about Shakeology, but they think they know about Shakeology. They don't know about exercise, but they think they know it all. They don't know about nutrition, but they'll drink this and eat the donut. Like, they don't know anything. So their opinion should not matter to you. And then there are people who fall into the last category, which basically these people just lack emotional intelligence. Sometimes we have relatives like this. They genuinely love us, and they are accidentally condescending. That actually happened to me with breast cancer, believe it or not. I had people who I love very dearly who would say Pollyanna things like, well, I guess you have to be tested to have a testimony. And you were like, well, that's not helpful. And so those people, while their intentions are good, you can have, sympathy for them, but they lack the emotional intelligence to actually support you in the manner you deserve. So just have patience with those people. The other ones, put them in a box. Let them sort themselves out. Here's the truth of the matter. A majority of people are going to love what you bring to the table. The thing I love about this opportunity is that anyone can do it. I mean, I have seen a grandma in a muumuu walk across the stage as a 5-star diamond. I don't know who she was, but I was so inspired by her. And here's the thing, like anybody, you don't have to have 6-pack abs. You don't have to have a rockin' transformation. You just have to be a work in progress. You have to be authentic. And people will never forget how you made them feel. All you have to do is show up with an encourager's heart and you're going to stand out. You don't have to be the best food prepper. I hate cooking. So I don't even like to cook. My husband does the cooking. So, I just own it and, claim that I love tacos. All you have to do is make others feel like they are fearfully and wonderfully made, that they are special, that they are worthy, loved, and capable. Because how many times have they failed in the past? They're just looking for somebody who believes in their potential and who will stick with them long enough to see it through, right? Anybody can do that. Here's something really super interesting. Do you know that the average ratio of criticism to praise is 5-to-1? So for every 5 criticisms, we hear 1 word of praise. Can you imagine what would happen if you just flipped the ratio? Oh, somebody's unmuted. But I like the music. I'm just such a squirrel. I'll start singing.
Sorry.
That's so awesome. So imagine what would happen in your world if you flipped the ratio and you gave out, praises, like love confetti in the air, right? People are going to be so drawn to you because you are like a beautiful fragrance that they need in their life. And so just be generous with praise and positivity. You don't need to be a nutrition expert to do that. You don't need to have like a personal trainer's certification to do that. Sometimes I put positivity out there because I need it first. And honestly, anyone can do it. So, that's what's going to be your secret sauce. All right. So bottom line, to turn the fear of rejection into fuel, start loving the world. Like just put out positivity and love and belief in others. And I promise you, all of that fear of rejection, no one's going to criticize you for anything that you do when you genuinely come at it with that kind of posture. Okay, the next type of fear is fear of process. All right, we deal with this a lot. This is one of my favorite quotes. We change our behavior when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of changing. Okay, this is going to totally date myself, but I lived through the era of when texting just first started. Oh my gosh, so embarrassing right there. But I had one of those little flip phones where you had to press the button 3 times. And because I'm a type A personality, I would press the button so fast that I would go past the letter I needed. And so I was so frustrated. I thought texting was the stupidest thing. Like, I could email someone faster. Like, this, whoever is going to be texting, like, that's so stupid. I refused to text people until I was put in charge of like a youth ministry, and I had to work with kids, teenagers. Guess what they were doing? They only texted. They didn't even respond. They didn't even open email. So I had to change. If I was going to communicate with these teenagers at all, I was forced into buying like my first smartphone that had a, true keyboard on it. And of course, my life changed forever for the better. But that's typically what happens with fear of process. Like, we change when the fear associated with change, or when fear associated with the status quo is greater than the fear associated with change. Change is just hard. Like, we walk through this with our challengers, right? So, they might have a fear of learning how to cook, or learning how to prep, or learning how to even shop, right? Or a fear of learning how to work out, or I've never done a burpee, or, how am I going to figure all that out? And so we have to talk them through the fear of process, right? And we do that by having them focus on the feeling of accomplishment. Imagine how great it's going to feel when you have your food all in containers for the week and you're like, boom, I got it all done. I don't have to think about it, what I'm going to eat for the next 5 days. Imagine how great you're going to feel when you master that, exercise, and you do your first 10 burpees or whatever, you don't die. Like, imagine how great you're going to feel when you run your first challenge group as a coach. Like, you actually are going to be having a front row seat to seeing life transformation happen before your eyes. How cool is that? Imagine how cool it's going to be when you are a 5-star diamond coach and you are walking across the stage and your whole team is cheering for you and you're bawling your eyes out because all of that happened because you were willing to go first as a leader and believe the best in others, and you have this incredible team supporting you. Like, imagine the feeling of accomplishment, you guys. So very powerful. Part of the mastery of life is to see change as a gain. And change is the birthplace of creativity and passion. It is where the variety of life is born. And so don't fear the process. I want you guys to be chatting together about how it will feel when you master the process. Whatever it is that you're struggling with in coaching, whether that's inviting to challenge groups or inviting to coaching opportunities or developing coaches or helping them take next steps. Maybe it's just consistency in your own vital behaviors. How is it going to feel when you master that process? I want one word in the chat. How will that feel when you finally feel like, I've got mastery of this? Like, it used to totally trip me up, and now I'm teaching people about it. That's freaking cool, right? So, outcome fear. What if? All right. This is the last one. Outcome fear is like that whole what if. What if it's not worth it? What if I put all this effort in and like my business goes nowhere and I don't have a team and my income doesn't grow? What if I like, I don't know, what if it's just not worth it, right? What if I lose friendships in the process? What if like it all goes south? That's outcome fear. And the way that you turn outcome fear into fuel is to think about the potential. Like, what are the things that would turn out wonderful? So in the chat, I want you guys to talk about like, what are some of the things that would be wonderful if you really committed to the process that, your leadership has put before you? What if you went all in for a year and you were like, I'm going to do whatever I'm told to do? Even when I don't feel like doing it, I'm going to show up every day. I'm going to do my power hour. I'm going to invite my 3 people. I'm going to run a challenge group. I'm going to run a free group. Like, what would happen if you went all in for a year? And what are the wonderful things that would come out of that all in best effort? Could you maybe hit 2-star? Would you be a 5-star? Could you go to leadership? Could you be connected to some of these like awesome groups, of other leaders and with corporate mentors, and like Could you actually be trapped? Like, could you go on the Success Club trip? Could that be paid for? Could you take your husband on a vacation for the first time instead of him taking you? Like, what are all the things that could turn out wonderful if you just trusted that your leadership had the very best intentions for your success and you went all in? That's what I want for you. So post your answer in the chat. Which fear has its grip on you? Is it a fear of loss? Fear of rejection? Fear of process? Fear of outcome? Which one has been holding you hostage? Because the first step toward turning that into fuel is to give it a name. And once you give it a name, now you can learn about it. And when you learn about it, now you can do something about it. And that whole loop starts to take effect. Too many of us are not living our dreams because we are living our fears. I mean, they're just false realities that we play in our heads, stupid, fictitious scenarios that drown out the positive potential of your life. There are 2 books I would recommend if any of this is a struggle for you: Motivation Manifesto or Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. You should know faith is a very central part to my business. And so I leave you, if you are a believer, then this part is for you. And if you're not, you can just take what you want and discard the rest. I don't mean to be offensive to anyone, but if you are a believer, you're called to a higher degree of kicking out fear in your life. Like, you either kick fear out of your heart, or fear is going to keep you out of the places God has prepared for you. And that's the truth. Like, fear is the enemy in the doorway that is just keeping you out of your God-given potential. And I will tell you, when I was faced with the decision of my treatment path, it was not an easy one. I sat in the office and I was like, oh, you know, DCIS, like, we can do a lumpectomy and I can do radiation. Radiation's not bad. I can totally withstand radiation. Radiation, I mean, I like my breasts. I want to keep my breasts. Let's just do lumpectomy. Well, God didn't let me have a peace about that. I was up most nights really wrestling with that decision, and we changed the plan to a bilateral mastectomy. And I know that's aggressive, but we felt like, hey, we're pretty thankful that we caught it early, right? And I was confident in that decision, but I still was fearful of the process. And I had some butt-kicking girlfriends, you know, you could call them push partners, I guess, if you want to, but butt-kicking girlfriends who were walking me through this process. And I remember I was having an especially hard day. And I called up my friend, her name is Laurel, and she works for Susan G. Komen. I said, Laurel, I don't think I can actually, like, I know this is the right decision, but I don't think I can actually go through with this. Like, I felt like a caged animal, and I just wanted to run away, you know, like, I don't have to face any of this. I don't think I can check myself into the hospital. And I'm like hyperventilating, crying during this call. And she's like, well, you can cry about that today, but tomorrow I'm going to come over and kick your butt if you're still bawling about this. Like, you got to put on your big girl pants. You got to do what you got to do, and you're going to be just fine. I was like, well, that's not very, you know, sympathetic. Like, that doesn't make me feel any better. So I got off the phone and went through a whole entire box of Kleenex, like the ugly cry. And in a moment that I can only describe as supernatural, I had a moment where I prayed and I said to God, like, this is too big of a decision, of a thing in my life. I can't do it on my own. And I literally need you to take care of this. Like, I release it because I can't do it. It's too big. And in that moment, I felt all the stress and anxiety and fear leave my body, and I felt his perfect peace come. And I didn't have another panic attack about that. And what I now know is that, because you know how, like, people say, well, you know, back to that whole Pollyanna comment where it's like, you have to be tested to have a testimony. Such a load of crap. No, a good father isn't going to give you cancer, your son papilledema, or your husband an ICU, care flight, or your other son depression. Like, a good father is not going to do that to you, but a good father is going to give you peace amidst the storm. A good father is going to want to carry you through whatever trial you're going through. A good father is going to want to help you bust through any fear in your life. And so my question to those of you who do have faith as a central part of your life is, like, what would happen in your life if you actually acted as though you were absolutely confident in your Father's love for you? How would that change your actions? So you don't have to be afraid when bad things happen, because they will. But you can be fully confident knowing He is for you and that He has amazing people for you to bless in the process. So that's all I got, girl.
Okay, bear with me. I am so emotional on this reset. Oh my gosh, that was so good. I'm sorry.
Don't.
I am a mess. No, that was so good. And I think just throwing some of these people on the call, it will help them a lot too. So I know the quotes that you gave and just the insight and the perspective, I am so grateful. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Does anybody have any questions before we let her go real quick? Anybody? And just so you know, we did a lot of chatting, so that helped too. Does anybody? Are you guys good? Hello? Can you nod? Can you give me something? All right.
I'm good, but I just want to say thank you so much. Everything that you gave us was amazing. Thank you. I'm going to go back and listen again tomorrow to write everything down. But thank you for taking the time to speak to us tonight.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I'm so grateful you guys took time out of your day to be here. So
Yes.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll let you get back to packing.
I have to do my workout. Ah.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't do it at night. Oh, you're brave. You are brave.
All right, you guys. Well, carry on, and I expect to be cheering for all of you at Summit. All right.
Amen. Thank you.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, I'll see you guys later. Are we good? Does anybody want to talk? Are you done? If you want to, go on the team page. Go on the team page. Abby, okay. I know. Okay. This is recorded. I'll stop recording actually, and so I'll get it up as soon as I can. Okay. Thank you guys.